Hi, in this video I will show you what portion of the price correction we've seen since Q1 of 2022 can be linked to changes in consumer behavior and what percentage can be attributed to the increased borrowing costs we've experienced over the last 8 months. Stick around. Now, unless you're buying with all cash, real estate in Toronto and Durham region has not become any more affordable since these prices have come down by $300,000 or $400,000 in the last 6 months. In the Pickering portion of this market update, I'll show you just how much of that price decline can be attributed to the increased cost of borrowing. So if you're not interested in hearing about what's going on in Toronto, you can skip ahead to that. I put the timestamps down below if you want to scroll ahead. For the rest of us, let's get started. Now, the market in Toronto is very tough to analyze as a whole because there are so many different neighborhoods, price points, and property types. You're lumping all these different things into the same pot and you're calling it, here's what's happening in the market. So what's happening, say, in like the high-end market isn't necessarily what's happening in the condo market, but somehow those numbers get put together. So for the sake of this discussion, we're going to go with the average numbers, see if we can draw any meaningful conclusions. But if you have any specific questions about certain neighborhoods, you can leave those in the comments below and I'll answer those the best I can. Now, compared to October 2021, sales are down about 50% and average price is down 3% to $1.093 million. Now, average time to sell your home in October was 37 days on average, with the months of inventory hovering around 1.7 months. Now, keep in mind that Toronto has a boatload of condos, which skew the data considerably. Now, take for instance, in the low-rise segment, instead of 37 days, you could expect it to take around 3 weeks to sell your home, with just over 1 month of inventory instead of the 1.7 months for all property types combined. The low-rise numbers indicate a market where actually a properly priced home will sell in a reasonable time, and assuming there's nothing like this going on in your marketing. Now, condos are a different story altogether. I mean, the prices remain strong for the units that actually sell, but a lot of the units went unsold in October, and we're beginning to see units start to pile up, especially in the downtown core. In the next few months will be really pivotal in terms of where the prices go from here. Now, I suspect a lot of the unsold units will end up becoming much needed rental units or Airbnb rentals. Time will tell though. Much like Toronto, Pickering has seen a leveling off of sales and prices over the past 3 months. Now, since the sharp declines in prices bottomed out in the month of July, prices in Pickering have remained quite stable since then, leveling off at around the $980,000 to $990,000 mark over the last 3 months. Now, the average days on market for all Pickering home types is 25 days. Now, compared to this time last year, sales are down 50% and the average price is down by almost 9%. Now, that being said, move-in ready homes that are priced properly and marketed well are still selling in a couple weeks or so, which to me is how real estate should be. Like, not this 10 offer, $200,000 over asking nonsense we've had the last few years. I don't think anyone was served well in that kind of market. Now, in terms of condo prices in Pickering, they are much higher than at any point in 2021 this past month. Now, this seems odd considering the supply of condos is substantially outpacing the demand. This month, for instance, there were only 5 condos sold in all of Pickering, while there were 23 active listings. So 18 of the 23 people trying to sell their condo were unsuccessful. This is something to keep an eye on as we approach the end of the year, because if this continues, we will see condo prices soften in 2023. The Pickering market as a whole has been in sharp decline since the peak in February, with average prices down by almost $301,000 over that span. Now, you might ask, how has this affected affordability? In Canada, we measure affordability relative to the house prices relative to income levels. In general, you want to have house prices no more than 4 times what income levels are. Despite home prices coming down by over $300,000 on average in the city of Toronto and in Durham region as well, affordability hasn't been affected all that much. For instance, if you bought an average Pickering home in February at $1.275 million, which was the cost back then, the monthly payment on a fixed rate mortgage, assuming 80% loan to value and the prevailing rate of 2.34% back then, your monthly payments would be $4,490. Now, the mortgage today on that same average house today at 5% instead of 2.34% is $4,585 per month, which is only a difference of $95. So even though the houses cost you $300,000 less, the effect on your monthly bank statements is roughly the same. But people haven't suddenly lost their appetite for housing. What many people have lost is their ability to afford housing, and the fact that homeowners can no longer economically use the equity in their homes to purchase second and third properties, and that has reduced demand substantially. To me, most of the price correction is due to increased borrowing costs associated with home ownership, namely mortgages. As well, things like eroding buyer confidence and the threat of a recession also play a part, but in my opinion to a much lesser extent. Like everywhere else in Canada, Ajax is seeing a large dip compared to last year. So the average price for all home types in Ajax from October 2022 is $968,000, which is down 8% when you compare it to last year. However, there are signs that the market may be stabilizing. The last few months have seen prices stabilize, and inventory levels are actually getting close to what we would see in the seller's market. Now, don't get me wrong, buyer confidence is nowhere near what it needs to be for a seller's market to happen, but in Ajax, it's a lot closer than anyone wants to let on. Since the peak of the market in February, Ajax prices have taken a beating, down by $304,000, but that hasn't stopped homes from selling, albeit at a diminished pace. Now, as we head into 2023, the number of new listings that hit the market will be key in determining where we're heading in terms of prices in 2023. All in all, we're starting to see a leveling off of the market after months and months of uncertainty. Now, this is not to say that uncertainty is not lurking around the corner, because it very well might be. But it seems for now that the market has responded appropriately to the increased borrowing costs we've seen over the past 8 months. Home sales have been impacted by both the affordability challenge presented by mortgage rate hikes and the trend where qualified home buyers who can afford higher borrowing costs have put their decision on hold to see where home prices end up. Now, once home prices stabilize, some of these buyers will re-enter the market despite the higher borrowing costs. Going forward, new listings will be an important indicator to watch over the next few months. Now, with unemployment rates low, the majority of households aren't in a position where they need to sell their home. Now, if these would-be sellers decide to take a wait-and-see approach over the next few months, it's possible that active listings could trend lower as we head into the new year. Now, if that were to happen, you might start to see prices nudge up into the Q1 of 2023. So that about wraps it up for my brief update of the real estate markets that I serve most, which is Pickering, Ajax, and Toronto. As always, feel free to contact me at the information below. If you're pondering a move to the Greater Toronto area, I spend the bulk of my time helping people like yourself move to the great city of Toronto and the surrounding suburbs, so I'd love to help you too. One more thing. Now, these videos do take me forever to make. And if you are feeling very gracious today, you got anything from the video, I would be delighted if you could like, subscribe, or both of this video. Thanks for watching.